Language and regional variations. The content includes the standard language, accent and dialect, dialectology, bilingualism and diglossia, language planning, and pidgins and creoles. The standard language. Standard language is actually an idealized variety it associates with administrative, commercial, and educational centers, regardless of region. It is the variety we normally try to teach to those who want to learn English as a second or foreign language. The standard language is clearly associated with education and broadcasting in public context and is more easily described in terms of the written language, example vocabulary, spelling, grammar, than the spoken language. So the example is Standard American English, Standard Britain English, and Standard Australian English. Accent and dialect. Technically, the term accent is restricted to the description of aspects of pronunciation that identify where an individual speaker is from, regionally or socially. We all speak with an accent. It is different from the term dialect, which is used to describe features of grammar and vocabulary as well as aspects of pronunciation. The example is the dialect of Scottish English is different in pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar.
Dialectology. In this part, we will learn about the first, regional dialects, second, isoglosses and dialect boundaries, and third, the dialect continuum. What is dialectology? So, dialectology is to distinguish between two different dialects of the same language and two different languages. Each dialect is simply different, and none of them is better than any other. Some varieties do become more prestigious. The variety that developed as the standard language has usually been one socially prestigious dialect, originally connected with a political or cultural center. Yet there always continue to be other varieties of languages spoken in different regions. The first one, regional dialect. Sometimes people view different regional dialects as a sort of humor on mockery. Some regional dialects have stereotyped pronunciations associated with them. Regional dialects are free. First investigation of consistent features of speech found in one geographical area compared to another. Norms, non-mobile, older rural male speakers are less likely to have been exposed to outside influences. Info collected served as the basis of linguistic atlases of whole countries. The second one is isoglosses and dialect boundaries. This is the pictures of isoglosses and dialect boundaries. Isogloss. It is a line that represents a boundary between areas with regard to that one particular linguistic item. For example, that the vast majority of information in one area say they carry things home from the store in a paper bag while the majority in another area say they use a paper sack. Then it is usually possible to draw a line across a map separating the two areas, as shown on the accompanying illustration. If a very similar distribution is found for another two items, such as a preference for pail to the north and bucket to the south, then another isogloss, probably overlapping the first, can be drawn on the map. When a number of isoglosses come together in this way, a more solid line indicating a dialect boundary can be drawn.
The next is about dialectology. The first is about the dialect continuum. We can view regional variation as existing along a rather than as having sharp breaks from one region to the next. For example, every similar type of continuum can occur with related languages existing on either side of a political border. As you travel from Holland into Germany, you will find concentrations of Dutch speakers giving way to areas near the border where Dutch may sound like Dutch, because the Dutch dialects and the German dialects are less clearly differentiated. Then, as you travel into Germany, greater concentrations of distinctly German speakers occur. One dialect or language variety merges into another. The next is bidialectal or speaking two dialects. Speakers who move back and forth across this border area using different varieties with some ease. Most of us grow up with some form of bidialectalism, speaking one dialect in the street among family and friends, and having to learn another dialect in school. So you speak in your family and friends with Japanese dialects, and you have to learn about maybe, for example, British English, British dialects in school. And when we talk about people knowing two distinct languages, we describe them as bilingual. The next is bilingualism and diglossia. Bilingualism in many countries, regional variation can involve two or more quite distinct and different languages. Individual bilingualism is the result of having two parents speaking different languages. One language will be the dominant one. For example, Canada is an officially bilingual country with both French and English as official languages. The next is diglossia. Diglossia is two distinct varieties of a language exist in some countries. In diglossia, there is a low variety acquired locally and used for everyday affairs, and a high or special variety learned in school and used for important matters. For example, a type of diglossia exists in Arabic-speaking countries where the high variety or classical Arabic is used in formal lectures, serious political events, and especially in religious discussions. The low variety is the local version of the language, such as Egyptian Arabic and Lebanese Arabic. The low variety is called vernacular. You can see vernacular in chapter 90. The next we talk about language planning. Government, legal, and educational organizations in many countries have to plan which variety or varieties of the languages spoken in the country are to be used for official business. For example, in Israel, despite the fact that it was not the most widely used language among the population, Hebrew was chosen as the official government language. In India, the choice was Hindi, yet in many non-Hindi speaking regions, there were riots against these decisions. And the last is there were national language war in Philippines before different groups could agree on the name of the national language, which is Filipino. And the next is we talk about how a national language is developed. So as you can see here is the process of developing a national language. The first is selection. This process of selection is choosing an official language. And the second is codification, which basic grammars, dictionaries, and written models are used to establish the standard variety. And the third is elaboration, with the standard variety being developed for use in all aspects of social life and the appearance of a body of literary works written in the standard. And the fourth is implementation is largely a matter of government attempts to encourage use of the standard. And the final step is acceptance. Acceptance is the final stage when a substantial majority of the population has come to use the standard and to think of it as the national language, playing a part in not only social but also a national identity.
Language planning. The process of language planning may be seen in a better light when the full series of stages is implemented over a number of years. For example, Swahili, as the official national language of Tanzania in East Africa, gradually introduces Swahili 1. Selection, official, codification, grammar, dictionaries. 3. Elaboration, social uses, literary. 4. Implementation, encourage. And 5. Acceptance, majority. Pigeons and CREOLES. Pigeon. A pigeon is a variety of language, for example, English, that developed for some practical purpose, such as a trading among groups of people who had a lot of contact but who did not know each other's language. The origin of the term "pigeon" is thought to be from a Chinese version of the English word "business" had no native speakers. For example, in Papua New Guinea, a lot of official business is conducted in talk pigeon. There are believed to be between 6 and 12 million people still using pidgin language and between 10 and 17 million using descendants from pigeons called creoles. Creole. When a pidgin develops beyond its role as a trader or contact language and becomes the first language of a social community, it is described as a creole. A creole develops as the first language of the children of pidgin speakers. Thus, unlike pigeons, creoles have large numbers of native speakers and are not restricted at all in their uses. Talk pigeon is now a creole. For example, Hawaii, Creole English. Of French, Creole is spoken by the majority of the population in Haiti. English Creoles are used in Jamaica and Sierra Leone. Post-creole continuum. In many contemporary situations where creoles involved, there is usually evidence of another process at work, just as there was development from a pidgin to creole, known as creolization, where education and greater social prestige are associated with a higher variety. For example, British English in Jamaica. A number of speakers will tend to use fewer creole forms and structures, this process known as decolonization. This range of varieties evolving after post the Creole has come into existence is called the post-creole continuum. For example, in Jamaica, one speaker may say a fee me book that using the basic Creole variety. Another may put it as is me book, using a variety with fewer Creole features, and yet another may choose it's my book, using a variety with only some pronunciation features of the Creole accents. It is also very common for speakers to be able to use a range of varieties in different situations.
Thank you for your attention.